I'm trying hard to reach you.
Hello, hello. What's up, Koya?
Hello.
How you doing?
How you
All
doing?
right, we're about. I see we have our special guest already in the lobby, waiting in the green room. I hope y'all are enjoy. Oh, you don't want to hear that. Hope y'all are enjoying the champagne, the scrimps, and things there in the green room.
They like, what is that in the green room?
The green room. I hope your house has your own green room and you can fix yourself something. So we're here today, Koya, to talk about post traumatic slave syndrome. And for y'all that don't know, the Once Creative Group, we're a creative consultant agency, and what we'd like to do is we like to build your wonderland. Okay, we help you find your wonderland, and by doing that, we take your vision and we create it and make it come to life, basically, and we try to make it as creative and magical as possible. Okay, the unicorn is a wise, wise spirit that can transform anything. And what we like to do with our real talk is get down to some issues, get down to topics that are concerning to the community, to the society, and try to shed light on things, try to come up with solutions. So today with post traumatic slave syndrome, would you like to introduce our special guest, Koya?
Sure. So today I'm bringing in my mother, who is going Rhonda Roland Glaude, who is going to share her experience
There she is.
uh, that she had growing up in Asheville, North Carolina. and she will share her experience through some civil rights fun and talk about her dad a little bit and what her parents went through and what she went through as a little girl and maybe how that resonated for her later in life. And then we're gonna have on my little sister,
And here she is.
Dr. Shani Glaude
There she is.
Slugs, and she is going to give us the nitty gritty.
She's like, wait a minute, something changed. I got
the
control over everything.
the nitty gritty
I know
of
what that
post
was.
traumatic slave syndrome and what's happening in the mental health field with that, and maybe even getting some insight for our mom and maybe how she can work through some of those things that may come up for her. So here we go, guys. So
Yay!
I think we should. Who would like to start? What's a good segue? I think mom, telling your story is a great segue. Why don't you tell us what time, what era were you
Okay.
born and where, and then you can start from there. That will help.
All right. Well, I was born in 1954 in Asheville, North Carolina. And what I remember very clearly is in the 1950s, probably 1957, 1958, my dad began to volunteer um, to assist a group of students who wanted to make some changes. And these students were in high school, but not like seniors. I think a couple were seniors, but they were from 14 to 16 years old. So they were young, pretty much like these young people that are out today. And the one of the memories, well, one of the things I want to say is you never underestimate what a 3 and 4 year old can remember. Um, as I get older, I was able to fill in the facts of what actually happened, but I felt everything that happened. So I remember being in my dad's back of the store, which I loved because it was a smaller space and you could be back there while he was out selling his jewelry. He had the only black jewelry store in the city. And in the back room, he built a desk and just all kinds of things that I can just visualize in my memory. And I remember it being filled with young people, which I was excited. They were cool, you know, and they would pass me from person to person to person because I was like 3 or 4. And my dad was, he was a funny person, but this was one of the times when I saw him as being really serious, really firm. And he would say things to these young people and wouldn't allow them to respond back. He would say, don't look away, look forward, don't flinch. Um, no matter what's said to you. And then bad words were nigger, ugly, black, monkey, stupid, dumb. Those were bad words. He said, when you hear those words, don't flinch. If they throw something at you, don't move. And what I've learned just recently is that he was preparing them for the protests, for opening up lunch counters. We couldn't eat at the lunch counter. We could get food and leave, but we couldn't eat in the lunch counters, eat in the restaurants. They didn't hire people in the grocery stores. So this was a time of picketing. And I'm 3, picketing up and down the sidewalk with little socks on and my sandals, wanting to look at cartoons in the heat. But mom dragged me along because I was, there was no one to take care of me during that time. So the one thing that I'm learning now is for those lunch counters. One of the Viola Spells, and for instance, was talking about how dad was teaching them how to behave, how to withstand arguments and the anger and the things that were thrown at them, but they had a purpose. And when they sat at the lunch counter, they were to sit every other person. And in a few minutes later, white people that were part of the Allies would come in and fill in those spaces. So there was no way for people to even get served because all the spaces were filled up with the protesters and those allies. I thought that was really interesting. So then at 9, I'm going through it again with opening up the front door to theater. And we went to see the Three Little Kittens black and white movie. I never will forget that. And I remember it being Rosa Davis, Sharon, and my cousin Tony now tells me he was there. Just remember, I was a very, very shy, very, very scared little girl. And my mom and dad were also very protective of me, but it was just my mom and me or my dad because my sister was in college at the time. So she just kept me really close. So during that time, we went to the front door of the theater. You know, Nashville, North Carolina, the South, you always dressed when you go out. So I'm dressed in my Sunday best to go see this dumb movie that I really didn't want to go see, but it was something we had to do because that was on Dad's list. So we're standing there and we have our little dollars because it was $1 to go in. And they said, yeah, no, you can't come here. She said, well, we have money. No, don't want your money. You need to go in the back. And in the back of the theater, which was only like 75 cents, there was mud and broken wood where they tried to cover up the mud so you could walk in and you sit in this nasty, dirty balcony that wasn't cleaned from the many times before. And it was dark with no lights. I don't even remember there being a bathroom, but that's where they wanted us to sit. So we refused to go. And my mom, who's a very sturdy Taurus woman, said, go get your dad. Oh, hell no. That meant that I had to leave Pack Square, run with this scared child, running around the corner, all the way down the street, past the police station to my dad's office to tell him, we're in trouble. You got to bring help. Because there were no cell phones. I don't even remember if there were pay phones, but I'm sure there were somewhere. So after that, he came up and they had already brought up a paddy wagon and everything to put these 3 or 4 little children and these 3 adults into a paddy wagon because they wouldn't go to the back of the theater to see a dumb movie. So that process that we took, I'm not sure not sure what happened. I know the police came, daddy came, paddy wagon there, the whole thing. I escaped that part. So they didn't actually get arrested, but it was definitely there. Those paddy wagons were big silver bin looking things. So that was like 9. And then opening the door of the front of the McDonald's where they pulled out rifles. And I remember those big old bright yellow arches and these men standing out in front. Nobody, we really didn't want the hamburger. We just wanted the opportunity or the freedom to get it if we did want it. So Dad had loads of cars of young people from the nearby college, Warren Wilson College, I think it was, Stevens Lee High School, just all of the schools. Those young people got together and they got in their carloads. So they would drive cars all day long to McDonald's, to Burger King, and you go in and say, I want a hamburger and I want this for my friend. And they say, we'll serve you, but we won't serve them. And they say, are you sure that's what you want to do? And they walk out. This happened all day, every day. So the last carload was at Burger King. And that time the Whoppers were the size of pan pizzas. So we were the last car. We go in and Mom said, I would like to have 2 Burger King Whoppers, 2 orders of fries, and 3 small sodas. And they said, that will be, I don't know, $3.86. Well, the problem was we had no money with us. We were prepared to say, are you sure that's what you want to do? And walk out because we were the last car for the night and there are no phones. So Mom goes, Rhonda, go in the car. Look under the seat. Look at the glove compartment. And I am scared. You guys have no idea what a scared person I was. So I'm running in the car, looking under the mat, looking for money so that we could pay this it wasn't a lot, $3.80. I don't know why I said that number. So I give Mom all this change And she said, "Excuse me, I'd like to change my order, please." I'm like, "Oh, dang." She said, "I'd like to have one Whopper cut into fourths, one large fry, and two small sodas."
Don't that sound
And
like
you
Georgia?
know they didn't. You know that sounds like her. They did not want to serve us anyway. And she
And she
goes
gonna
and
make it
changes
more
That
the
don't
order.
sound just like grandma. That sound like mommy. Mommy
She
was like, y'all about to share this. Y'all about to share this Coca-Cola three
still
ways.
asking for real extra orders.
Like,
You know what? That might be interesting. So they cut it into fourths, and we sat down giggling like nobody's business, scared. Our car's right by the window, so we had an escape plan. And we're sitting there giggling, and all of the other white people that were in the restaurant left. They left like, oh my God, they left their food. They ran out like it was, a plague. And so because my dad hadn't heard from us, he thought something had happened. So these parade of cars started pulling up in front of the Burger King, and lights are flashing and people are jumping out the cars, and we sitting there giggling and eating. He probably was so mad at us, but we had no other way of contacting him. But then they all came in and we all ate. And at that point, Burger King was one of the ones that they just gave in. I'm not sure if McDonald's gave in that day, but I do know that Burger King did. So very quickly, then it was desegregation started in junior high school. And they brought all of the little black children to the auditorium, and they said to us, "We're going to give you C's. So you could either work hard to keep it or you lose it." Well, look, the story is our black schools, they worked us overtime, and a C was failing for them.
Right.
And that meant unless that was your best. If that was your best, that's different. But the best for them was always A's, and everybody in the community knew it. So there was no playing around with Rhonda getting C's. That just wasn't it.
Right.
So my mother went up to the school, such as she is, and she said, "If my daughter is that dumb, you need to put her in special ed." I was like, "Okay, Mom, they might put me in special ed for real." And C is not dumb.
Hey, grandma was not playing, yo.
She was not playing.
Her bar was extra.
They called me up to the office. You don't have to understand. I threw up.
Damn.
Yes. C.
Bruh.
So they called me to the office. I'm like, oh man. Now remember, shit and damn and all those words were not in my vocabulary. So it was old foodles. I don't know what I said. But anyway, I am still a very shy, very scared person. So the principal calls to this day. When the principal calls my name, my heart does one of these things. It flutters to this day. And I go in the office and my mama is standing there. My beautiful brown mama is standing there. She said, "Give me your name. Give me your address. Tell me who you are. Tell me what you know." Do you anxiety through the roof? But I knew I had to do it because I knew my mother very well. So needless to say, the report cards came out, and one woman in algebra, I'll never forget that, gave me a C. And Mom didn't care if you got a C, if that's what you did. But the woman was stupid.
Right.
Because she gave all of our classwork. I never made anything below a B. So Mom kept all the papers, and she goes back up to the school again. So I don't know how many parents fought for their kids. So I don't know if they eventually gave us the grades we deserve and work for, or I don't know how that turned out. But I know that woman gave me the grades I earned. It was algebra. So I got A's and B's, that was junior high. And then you got the Asheville riots in 1969 because they closed all of our black schools and our high schools and shipped us across town to Lee Edwards High, which was in a all-white community. they claimed that they had some um, blacks going in there anyway, but that is not true. I mean, I don't know that to be true. But they didn't change the name. So we had Stevens Lee High School, y'all. They had the best marching band in the world. They were sharp. And we go to this white school. Okay, you know what the band looked like. They didn't have our trophies. They left it Lee Edwards. They didn't, change the mascot. They didn't do anything as they brought us into this place. That just was not going to work. So with all of our little dresses, you can go on their website and see. It is hilarious. With all our little dresses and our little books, because they said, at this time, just get up and walk out of class. Mm-hmm. Nervous again, but I'm going out on this one. So I had all of my books and the papers, and we got little flat shoes and little skirts and dresses because we couldn't wear pants.
Right.
And we're sitting out on the steps. Not everybody went. That's why there's so many people in Asheville who some of these stories they don't know about. It was a frightening time. So you had to stand and be willing to die for whatever it was that you did. And so for me, I honestly didn't have a choice. So during that high school, when we sat out, then there were some people from the outside who started rioting. But now we know that some of our advisors who were supporting us called the police just in case we might need support.
Right.
So with us not knowing, we're sitting on the steps. You know the thing, you don't call the cops. So we're sitting on the steps being peaceful, and they expelled a boy for not wearing socks, and they wouldn't change the name and didn't have a mascot. It was just a lot of things, a lot of grievances that we had. But what we didn't know is behind the school was an army of policemen. Mm. And they told us to vacate the property and return back to class. And after that, I did go back to class. Some people left. The cops came, and it was just hitting with billy clubs. It was a mess. And you have people running, scattering all over the place, trying to escape these cops when it was totally innocent. They didn't have any guns hidden in their little notebooks. And we didn't even have book bags. So,
right.
We had purses. So nobody was carrying a gun. So that lasted they put Asheville on shutdown, I think, for about 3 days. Tony and I had gone back in the building, and the outsiders, they weren't Black Panthers. They were called something else. But at that time, I thought they were Black Panthers. And they were coming through the school to make sure there were no Black people in there. They were going to drag you out. Mm-hmm. So in the classrooms, if there were Black people, they literally hid us under their desk. So Tony and I were in the music class, and we just jumped out the window because it was ground level and shot across the street, up the hill to my doctor's office to call my mom and dad. But after that, they started making slowly but surely some, changes in the name and all that other kind of stuff. We had 12 cheerleaders, 6 were white and 6 were other. I got into everything I could, student council, trying to get all involved.
Y'all had other in Nashville?
It was really, as far as I know, Black and white and 3 people from Thailand. It was a mostly Jewish community. Now, history can show that that's different, but from what I knew, that was it. So all of the corner stores were Jewish owned, and my dad had the Black jewelry store, and the only other jewelry store was Jewish owned. So high school it ended up that last year, the principal left with us because he had been in there all the way from the beginning of our first year, and lasted all the way through. And I think he did his best. College, the prom we had a band called the Black and White Band, worst band ever.
Wait,
so people dressed up, went to the room or left.
That was a terrible
go, and we went to see the movie of The Godfather. Black and White was horrible. Everybody loves music. So he just tried so hard, but it was music, terrible. So when the lights come on, we all go to the movies to see The Godfather. I never forget that. The lights come on, you got all of Asheville High sitting there with their gowns and stuff on at the movies. Whites too. It was funny.
That's interesting.
But that was, and so now I'm going through, I was in a Miss Asheville pageant with the 3. It was a lot of things. that both my mom and dad were involved in. And dad always gets his work gets lost so often, but he was not only a mediator between the national organizations and the local ones, but he was also an advisor. He did so many things. And the people that talk about him, it's just really heartfelt, the things he went through. But he died at 53. He was exhausted. No matter what, whether it was a heart attack or lungs or whatever it was, he was exhausted at 53. And the desegregation of schools, he worked really hard to pull that through. And honestly, in his heart, when that and urban renewal came through, he knew that that was not what it was intended to be. We wanted equal rights. Give us equal money for our schools, our neighborhoods, our whatever. That's it. But they refused and wanted to throw us in their schools. And that's when our education became watered down. And, we didn't get the opportunities that we needed. I fought really hard. I left as soon as I graduated. I went to Howard University, never seen so many beautiful Black people for my life. It was like, wow, no one was the same. And the Asheville pageant was also very interesting. They weren't ready for a Black queen, they told me, but I could come back the next year and they would give the crown to me. I said, thank you very much. But I cut off that pageantry hair with Afro bangles up my arms and had red in my hair. Yeah, I was not ready for that pageantry. That was done. That's the short of it. But I call it PTSD because it is this what's going on now, what has been going on all along. It's just too much.
So when Granddaddy was organizing A-Score and stuff, he was still running the jewelry store. Hello?
Right, the A-Score, and I found the meaning of it because I keep forgetting. But it's Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
We can hear you now.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Oh, I'm sorry.
You're
so the A-Score, I'm breaking up.
Yeah, Koya, Mommy and I were talking about this morning. Like him being a business owner, we felt like kind of was an act of activism in itself, like having a Black-owned business.
But he was doing it simultaneously, right?
Yeah, because Mom, wasn't he helping
using this
in the back office, in the back of his office? He was bringing the students in to help train them in the back of the jewelry store.
Right.
Yes, which no one knew about. And you couldn't hear it. Now, his jewelry store was 2 doors down from the police department. They knew he was involved in something because they wanted him to carry a gun. But A-Score is Asheville Student Congress on Racial Equality. That was a group of young people who, I think they pulled in 100 people during that course of time when it was in existence.
Okay. That's a lot.
Yeah, and so this is Mom's experiences, So when we talk about our ancestors going through this is Mom.
Right.
This is how close.
It's not an ancestor. It's
not an ancestor at all.
It's where you come from. So I guess that kind of segues into like, how do you feel? This really segues into the PTSS and the generational trauma and things that can be carried on. And like, I think we need to really let you kind of shine a light on how these things are really ingrained in us more in our DNA and in our physiology than it is just, we just learned about it and now we're mad. No, it's not that.
Right.
We can't. Sometimes people they mad, they don't even know why they mad.
Right.
So my question was, Mom, so you had to raise children and we didn't have that type of like heavy It wasn't heavy like that for us. Like I'm an 81 baby. So and then Kyrie is at the end of that and he's an 85 baby. So like you didn't have it wasn't as stressful. I mean, in the same way, but did you raise us with those thoughts in your head? Because I feel like we were taught that in a form, like what you went through in a form,
Well, it
but not really.
Through stories.
that
Right.
yeah, that experience never went away, because when you were born, stranger danger was out, and people were stealing babies out of the nursery, and so I've always, I guess, now that I'm thinking, always been in a crisis mode,
So
or
I'm
afraid,
gonna
prepared just in case.
because
What, Shani?
while she was talking, I'm taking notes because I'm gonna connect that dot.
Yeah.
It is not conscious all the time. We are
Right.
not consciously teaching all the time. There were things that you taught us that were very intentional. Kwanzaa was very intentional. You did that on purpose. You and Dad did that on purpose, right?
Church was
And that's
intentional.
how intentional is, right? It's like you're educating and you're trying to help our generation hold on to something,
Right.
and you're doing it on purpose.
Right.
You told us stories. You told us these stories. So Granddad had already passed before any of us were born, but we feel like we know him because of how much you told us about him.
Right.
And that is how our culture teaches, through story, through narratives and through history. And so I think you did those things very intentionally because you still do it. There are some things that I think we don't teach intentionally, and that is from the post-traumatic stress. And all post-traumatic slave syndrome is PTSD, but it's multi-generational. And it's very complex because it can't simply be treated by clinical therapy, by your traditional therapy, which is also colonized. Okay, let's just say like we are working on decolonizing therapy.
Right.
Even
Right.
that, even therapy.
My favorite word.
Okay.
Everything in all these systems are Euro colonistic religious.
Okay, because
You use it like once a week.
yes,
Every week.
as it should be, Matthew, a part of your vocabulary. But even the way I was trained, I find doesn't quite fit for our people.
Right. Okay.
So what post-traumatic slave syndrome is, it's multi-generational trauma. It is in our cells, it's in our bodies. We have some research now that says trauma can be carried through the cells, it can change personality, and it can get trapped in our DNA. And this is complex because it cannot be treated like normal depression and anxiety because it requires social and institutionalized changes. This is essentially asking a whole mass group of people to heal themselves while they are continuing to be injured. It doesn't make sense. How do you heal people that you're still injuring? So what they really are saying when they say, you guys are going to have to move on, pick yourself up by your bootstraps and all that stuff is forget and accept. Forget and accept and adopt our ways, which is what they were doing a long time ago. So Mom, as you were talking, well, first, do I have your permission to break some of that down a little bit? Mommy. She's frozen. I'm going to keep it moving. Okay.
She is frozen.
So something that she said.
Something happened over there. I think their internet.
She's going to fix it. Yeah. Should I keep going?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Wait for her to come back. Okay. So there's a couple of things that she said in her story that were interesting because they did creep into her parenting. So that story she told about being really anxious because grandma was not only at the counter, but then had the nerve to order something special. and she was like, come on, Mom, like we barely here. And you asking for extra stuff.
Right.
Mom still does that. Mom like to send food back. If they send her somebody else's order, it could be completely wrong. She doesn't want to send it back. She doesn't want to make anything more difficult than it has to be. She wants to be unseen in that way. She still has that fear.
So that's part of that PTSD,
That's part
right?
of PTSD.
She's like, I don't want to have any conflict. I'm okay because I had,
barely here.
and we're like, this is Burger King.
And
Tell them like,
and Koi's like, no. That is not what you wanted. You are sending that back. And mom
Right.
freezes, like she goes into a panic almost. And so I think hearing her tell that story as a kid, I'm like, wow, so that was always there. Hi guys.
Oh, you got dark in your mom.
We're back.
Mommy?
There we go.
Pause. Mommy,
Yes.
do you know how to check? What Wi-Fi are you on? Are you on the right Wi-Fi?
little technical difficulties.
Yes.
Because your Wi-Fi is a little in and out. What are you on?
Hi, brother-in-law.
That Chrome? No, you keep saying yes. What are you on?
I can go to my phone.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's gonna be better,
Empire
but
spelled backwards.
your connection is a little back and forth, and it's also very dark.
Well, we'll be here. We can
It's about to
keep
get dark.
adjusting.
I'm not turning on that light because I'm super hot.
Wow. Okay.
Our air conditioner broke, Koya. It's hot. I'll turn it on a little bit. I'll just sweat.
Welcome to my world. Mm-hmm.
All right.
So, to recap what you all missed, Shani was just putting together the point of, like, talking about mommy at the Burger King counter has now transferred into things that she knows that happens when she's out at the same type of establishment, and she just doesn't want to be bothered, so she just lets things be. And you all as the children, the next generation, are like, no, that's not what you wanted. You can tell them. And she's like, I just don't want any trouble. It's not that she can't do it or she's not comfortable doing it. It's the fact that situation is implanted in her mind subconsciously, and it's a traumatic situation. So whenever she's confronted with that, a little piece of fight or flight comes in.
Yes.
Little piece comes in. It's like, I don't know if I want to fight this.
Yes. So the other part of the fight or flight, and fight or flight is part of post-traumatic stress. So post-traumatic stress in general is like, it's what happens is it's almost like a time machine, guys. It's like you're in the present, but your mind is pulling memories and emotional experiences from the past. So your body is here, but your mind is bringing in stuff from before, and you are responding in the present as if you are still in danger in that moment. And that is how like our fight or flight works.
Right. That's what they talk about, like with soldiers and veterans.
Soldiers, right.
They used to call it shell shock because some guys used to literally go crazy and run around thinking that there's bombs and stuff dropping on their heads. Like,
right. And that's what it feels like. So what happens is your brain has these, it categorizes information, right? And so it'll take a traumatic situation, it'll categorize the feeling involved, or your experience, and even your physical experience of that moment. It categorizes it, holds on to it. And then in the present, if something happens and you remain in your fight or flight consistently, your brain doesn't know the difference between safe and unsafe anymore. It just knows the familiar experience. So then it starts to pull that same physical response to the present, even if it doesn't belong there. So when I'm talking about her being at the counter and grandma, and she's like, come on, grandma, like, we're barely here. You asking these people for more? Like, don't do it. Right. I'm talking about like when we're at restaurants and she gets the wrong order or something's wrong and she doesn't want to send it back. God. So I know, and it's so frustrating, right? But it's also like, well, we don't have that particular trauma stored in our brain. So for us, it's like, mom, just send it back. They're going to give you more food. But for her, that discomfort comes up and she might freeze.
She wasn't allowed to ask nothing.
And she wasn't
thankful you.
Right. So what it does for us as a group of people is we are over and over and over again experiencing these traumatic events from the world, and they keep getting reinforced. And so we are essentially a generation with opportunity, but lack the esteem to take advantage of those opportunities. We don't have the pure, like everyone says, babies are born and they're just free and pure, and it's not until the world gets to them that these babies develop anxieties and depression. Well, our culture does not come into this world completely free of that. And so everyone's like, oh, we have all these opportunities. Sure, we do. But we're also still healing from these generations before us that did not have those opportunities. And we are carrying on some of the symptoms that prevent us from really being able to do it. We lack that esteem.
Right.
And so that's why clinical therapy and just your average,
so much
isn't necessarily enough to fix this. We have to do it socially, and we have to do it through the institutions. You cannot get a group of people to get better while you're injuring them.
Right.
That is a mixed message, and nobody knows what to do with that.
So, from your industry's perspective, are there things being done that you know of that are trying to push this information to the forefront?
Yeah. Well, the research alone, I mean, even describing this term, I think has helped push the field in this direction a little bit, a lot of it, really. Because it has been researched. We're talking about it more. They're really pushing to get it included as an actual diagnosis.
Okay.
They're trying to push it to get to make it into our diagnostic manual. It is not in our diagnostic manual.
Okay, as a diagnosis, but then what do we say? Do we say all of us have this diagnosis, and then what? Because I can't say that there's anyone that is born in the diaspora. Koya and I talked about this with this reparations thing. So I saw and I just wanted to I saw a thing about reparations, right? And they were like, if they came up with a number, it was like $6.5 quadrillion, which is like hundreds and hundreds, multiple hundreds of trillions, right? Everybody would get like $141 million or something, was this breakdown that I looked at, right? And then we were like, but how would they disseminate that? Would it just be all black? And I was like, no, you'd have to be from the diaspora, but you'd have to live in America. And so you couldn't be first generation, you couldn't be like even
you'd
second
have to,
generation African or anything. Like you'd have to be, but then I said, but if you're from the islands and you live in America, then you count. So that's a whole nother thing. If you're from Brazil and you live in America and you're Afro-Latino, you count. Because all of those people, the descendant lines are basically
all over the place.
The same.
Right.
So it becomes a bigger issue in that. So like I was saying, like if it becomes a diagnosis, do we all have this diagnosis? And then what does that say? Is that going to be a negative? Like all black people are PT, like they look at it as a thing against us.
Yeah. So let me just talk about diagnosis for a quick second. We know we have to have them, especially if we're working with managed care, especially if we're working with insurance companies. We have to have them. Not all of us treat people as a diagnosis. We mostly just treat the presentation. It's like, okay, tell me your experiences. Tell me what's going on. I'm going to educate you on what this is, because I think knowing what you're dealing with matters, right? So instead of someone coming in and saying, I'm lazy and I'm not good enough, I'm not performing, I'm not being productive, and I just, I don't matter. I don't feel like I matter. I feel worthless. Instead of that just being labeled as depression, right? Because that is probably most likely what someone will be labeled with. Right. You would dive a little deeper. And it's a lot of times when you're talking to people like that, it's like, okay, well, you're not broken. I can totally see how you got to that point based on all these other things. So sometimes it's just helping people understand what it is they're going through and why. I mean, a lot of folks have said, it helps me to know what I'm dealing with so I don't feel like I'm just damaged for no reason. Like this is all just my fault and I have no power over this. Being disempowered is probably the biggest, is what I hate the most about our field. Is like if you would sometimes if you describe things a certain way, people feel like they're just broken and they can't do anything about it. And it's not necessarily true. We have personal power makes us feel like we are more capable in combating our post-traumatic stress.
So it's about educating the masses of us then that this is a real
This is
thing that
real.
is playing a part in even the most successful
The most successful.
person
Yes.
in our, even, the Diddy's and the Jay-Z's beyond, like, even then, Oprah, all, even them they have this, and so we don't have to like draw a line that it's a educational thing, or like you were just this, or it's a mental illness. It's not. It's something that's just a part of that. We're actually, I think if we educate ourselves and um learn more about this and break it down, I think that we can fix it in future generations, because
Yeah.
I think that's what's happening now, is that our PTSS and our generation and generations after us that are now becoming adults, it's different. It's a few generations removed, depending on
And
your
without that
family and you.
information, we are so judgy towards each other because we don't have the information.
Mm,
Let's take voting. So there's a concept of learned helplessness, which just means you have been hit so many times that you are used to that pain and you're desensitized to that pain, and now you have accepted that pain as a norm, and it is a normal standard of living, and you are just supposed to learn how to take it. That takes away our personal power and thinking that we have any power over changing our circumstance. So let's take voting. We are so mad at people who are not voting, right? This is a concept of learned helplessness. They're so used to their vote not mattering that they have stopped participating in the fight. But that is not just that person being ignorant. That is post-traumatic slave syndrome. That is
okay.
being hit so many times that you now think you really don't have any power
Any
over
power.
circumstances. And so you withdraw from the fight, and that's what they want.
Okay,
Mm.
I want to ask a question. Your Uncle Greg is talking about what about the opportunities of education, because their parents took it extremely seriously, like mommy was talking about in her story. See, Grandma said, see, she must be dumb. Like, no, because she don't get those grades. It seems like the kids today don't take it as seriously, and I don't think that's the case. I think they take education differently
Yeah.
now. But I also think that that was part of like breaking it. Like your parent, I think the other older generations had to take education
Had to.
serious like they
That
did.
was
First of
the only
all, they
avenue.
didn't have equal education. So when
Pause.
they were able to, they had to. Yes.
Hold on. Just everybody's screen was doing something different. So I couldn't hear what you were saying. Can you say that again?
Okay. So going back to relating that point of education and like the balance of where we were to today,
Post
and
retrograde.
say what?
Technology is wild right now.
Oh, okay. Sorry you can't hear.
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Oh.
pause.
I think it's you and mom because I can hear everybody in real time.
But
Mhm.
I'm looking at it and it's paused everywhere.
No, it's good on the
Me and Matt are good.
Y'all are pausing.
Hold on. Our internet is definitely in and out. It's doing some wild things outside.
Okay.
One of
Hold on.
y'all need to get on a hotspot. No, for real, so that you can break up the internet signal.
Mhm.
She'll be back. Um,
Education.
so right, education and how things. I was trying to relate to like how the mindset has been changing.
Let's talk about education,
And
I think that's crucial too. Because so education is a part of that institutionalized racism. So that is a part of the post-traumatic stress.
right,
The kids are dealing with way more. So I
right,
know that we seem like this. Our generations seem like we haven't gone through as much as the people before us have. But what the point is about post-traumatic stress is that we aren't and we are at the same time. So whereas education might have been the only avenue for the generations before us, and they were so gun-ho about it because they were truly trying to break barriers for that, we are taking on the trauma of them that we haven't experienced in real time. So what that has done is taken away some of our motivation, some of our confidence, some of our esteem, and all of these things are necessary in order to perform. And keep in mind that we are still trying to perform within standards that were not designed for us. And so what it looks like is, and this is a symptom of post-traumatic slave syndrome, self-destructive behavior is a symptom of post-traumatic slave syndrome. It is essentially engaging in things that don't serve us well, but under the microscope of it feeling like that's all we got to do. That's all we can do. So, and we have children who have learning disorders. They're in really, really chaotic homes, but expected to go to school and live their best life and be focused. We have a lot of anxiety disorders when it comes to performing in school. We have kids that just learn differently, but the environment doesn't quite cater to that. Right. And we have what we call like imposter syndrome, which is this major, major self-doubt. And even if you are fully capable of performing, you don't get to that level because you're constantly battling with yourself about a million things. This is very distracting. And it is hard to perform within these standards when you have all of that going on. How do you focus on passing a test when you didn't eat a day before?
And I think that's what the hard part is.
Did
when
y'all
you're trying to
talk about the shift in work field as well?
Yeah.
No. Because I was gonna say, like, so when we talk to, let's say, people from the continent of Africa, right, or other foreigners from places that come to America, first, second generation, that work hard, they build something. First of all, we don't talk about how many facilities they get immediately as an adult ready to use when they get here, whereas some people that have been here have been using that for generations. It's expended. They don't have the opportunity to get that anymore.
Right.
But like the mindset of like, oh, you guys don't work hard enough.
That's the judgment.
You guys aren't learning in school. We come here, we work, not understanding that there is a different psyche.
There's
involved.
a different psyche. So
Right.
that goes back to the making of it. So I was looking through the Frederick Douglass papers and this other book about how slaves were conditioned, right? So a big part of that was personal inferiority, like really just believing, instilling this belief that you're just never gonna make it. You just can't make it. Developing an awe of a master's power, accepting the master's standards of good conduct, and developing a habit of perfect dependence, as well as self-destruction. This is what has been done to, I would say, and I say this is specific to folks who are born in this country.
Right.
This is the history.
Right.
So this is the generational trauma. And this type of trauma can change personality and you're just how we thrive. We are survivors. We are not used to thriving. We are used to living and making it and figuring it out. But thriving is something that we are still working on.
Right.
And part of what they did was remove us so far from our origins of strength that we are trying to figure that out now. We are trying to rebuild our esteem and our ego. Ego is not a bad thing. Ego is a good thing. It's your relationship to self. It's the strength of your esteem. And our ego strength is fragile. And we are always trying to find ways to do it. We do it through material things, which is self-destructive. We do it through division, right? By trying to make ourselves superior over each other, by finding those differences. We do it through aligning ourselves with the majority. So when we walking around here calling each other coons, keep in mind that those coons have post-traumatic stress as well. They found that later survive. They are aligning with the map of power.
That was a
safest space.
That's interesting that you say that, because I had that conversation today about I feel like that may be what Nick Cannon is struggling with right now. He is teeter-tottering right now. And
who doesn't? You think
and it's normal.
To go get
it's normal. It's so normal, right? It's so normal to teeter-totter.
Yes.
But it's everybody's so mad, and he's like, I feel like I disappointed my people, and then I let a whole culture down and disrespected them. And I'm like, nah, see, we don't feel like that. We just don't understand why you are going in abundance. Like, say that maybe there are some missteps, or maybe there were some things you need to go find out more information about. But to grovel because you losing your spot, I got a problem with that.
I mean,
you came out your mouth sideways.
And that's what we did. That's post-traumatic stress as well.
Right. And then think about the weight on his shoulders with all those people that he employs. He's brought from just doing their own thing and made them millionaires and changing communities, because the money goes, and that's what people don't talk about in our community. The money does spread. If each of us got $10 million right now, you know, we already know how many people are taken care of with that, just because of how we would run our money and invest in things like that. But the point of the matter is that like weight, like, oh no, like I got to do something because I can't do nothing for, and that's the part that's messed up. You know what I mean?
Well, but this is where this is a good example of where we can connect the dots between the past and present. Remember, one of those ways of control was fear, power, and acceptance of standards.
Absolutely.
You combine those, and what do you get? So, and this is, as someone said in the comments, we can stand to grant each other grace. Yes, we need to do that. We need to try to empathize with what is going on each other's side. Why are we making these decisions? What aspect of survival are we engaging in? And can we love each other through that? Can we love each other through everyone's different choice of how they choose to survive? It's hard because I don't agree with it either. This Candace Owens say, you know, I got words for her, but I also understand it's symptomatic.
And that's funny that you said her, because you brought up a good point when you talk about assimilating with specific groups and niches to make your way. She's a perfect example of that. And on the Revolt Summit, Joan, Killer Mike identified all of the factions actually perfectly. And that's what I was been trying to say as well. It's like all of these people have something right they're saying and trying to do, but they're not executing it right because they don't feel safe to be able to do it alone.
They don't want to lose their spot.
They don't want like I'm making it. I gotta because who is she taking care of? This is the thing that, because she said some good stuff too on different things on different platforms. And then she'll spin all the way around. You'd be like,
and then she just
and then she take you so far back. You'd be like,
it's like, oh,
that's DI too. And then I don't agree with everything Killer Mike says, but
no, me neither.
He's almost the closest to like all the way on point. you know, so I like that you said that, because it does relate to that that assimilation very much so.
I think we really have to allow each other to misstep and make mistakes, though.
Yes.
We're so much of this cancel culture. This cancel culture is so sick, because it's like, I mean, that's basically what it is when they go dig in your Twitter from 30 years ago and you didn't say it, you know, something that was about homosexuals, and that's the cancel culture, though. It's like, okay, but did this person grow from here to now? Like, was there growth? I'm not saying the same stuff I said at 25.
Thank goodness.
Mm.
I'm glad we didn't have Instagram back in the
We
day,
did not.
boy. I
You hear
got
me?
there like,
We
look,
did not have Instagram
woo.
and Facebook and social media as such in high school or middle
Cause I
school.
done been through some
Elementary school.
stages,
Thank
boy.
you, God.
And
But
we
I
have
would,
we
but
have
I would
all
like
done
to
the work.
see us. I would like to see us learn how to forgive each other.
Forgiveness.
You know,
Yeah,
and just
man.
understand that we all are trying to survive, not thrive, but just trying to wake up every morning and come back home the next day
Yeah.
alive. So we have to make some choices, and sometimes those choices means taking care of yourself and your family. Sometimes it doesn't mean the whole
We
um black race. You know what I mean?
we have become our foundation to me sometimes is just like there's a part of it that is almost based on secrets because we had to keep so many things between ourselves away from our overseers, and my issue with that is that we carried it into our family systems. We carried that, keeping things to yourself and not sharing. But then on the flip side, religiously, we believe in testimony. So I never understood how you're supposed to segue through that. but but also the idea of like not going to therapy or therapies for white people. It's all this system of like keeping secrets from each other, which kind of hinders the growth that we have. And the reason I think it's so hard to actually forgive people for a misstep or something they say or miseducation or whatever, or, and I think that's a part of it. It's like, y'all know I have a whole thing with that. Like I don't like that. I don't like being in a space where it's like you're not supposed to share your experiences, and it makes it difficult.
People don't feel safe,
Right.
Yeah.
and we have chronic mistrust. That's also part of post-traumatic slave syndrome, is the chronic mistrust. Forgiveness is meant to be unconditional.
Right.
It's meant to be offered regardless of what the outcome is going to be or if these people are going to hurt you later. But gosh, tell a whole group of people who have been enslaved for centuries to trust without a guarantee that you're not going to get hurt.
Like, bro, if you come tell me that you have reformed the police and that they saving, I'm gonna be looking at you like this for like another 50 years.
Yeah.
Like, I don't believe it.
And we were still taught to try and not to group people, right? Like mommy was like, assess the individual differently. And I'm like, but are you sure? Because a whole lot of individuals to keep doing the same thing.
That is a lot of assessing individually.
My reading told me that I know a lot of people. She said, nope, you know a lot of contrasts in people. And that's just, my dad was always insistent that you have to look, everybody puts their pants on one leg at a time. So when we had dinners, like either with the governor or mayor, I don't remember who it was, coming to our house for dinner on Pine Street, and my mom pulling out her china that came from dad's store. And my dad sits and they talk about their summer homes and they talk about all of these things. And my dad said, oh, yes, I have a ranch home too. And mom is sitting next to him going, what? Yes, every time I turn around, I have to put a wrench on it. So, and mom hated that, but he was himself wherever he went. Mom had laid out these cloth napkins, and he said, Georgia, why you got these pieces of material here on the table? And she goes,
he said that
Will, it's a napkin. He said, oh, I was just going to do this.
He was trying to keep her humble. That's all.
But that was in front of the governor or the mayor, mommy.
Yes, it was he and his wife, and they were. My mom was about to die because she had to live this. You know her. She dresses. She speaks. she has to be right here, right here, right here is where she
Mhm.
had to be. And she aligned
No.
herself with people
Did they know he
that
was
who
guilty?
she wanted to be, you know.
Did he know? Did they know his personality,
Um,
or did
I
they?
would just laugh because anything my dad said was funny. So I think that broke the ice. So
Okay.
they just went, you know. But the more that they wouldn't laugh, the worse he got. My mom was so done. But then they
Ooh.
understood him later. They realized they could laugh with him,
Mm,
you know.
mm.
Um, but he was such a quiet man in maneuvering through all of these things that people don't really know exactly what he did. And he did a lot,
Mm.
but he was humble and he refused to be anything else. And to have to step out every day knowing that you may not return home
Yeah.
takes is brave beyond and faith,
Mm-hmm.
and it was all volunteer.
Right. Right.
And I think that's what's leading to the PTSS and the young people now. They still have to do this. They still have to do this. Go outside the house and worry if they got to become home. Not like, okay, coming from the city, right? City boy, DC, when we coming up in the 80s, 90s, murder capital, crack city, all
Right.
that was going on, right? Okay, we worried about street violence, yes. If you weren't in the streets, you kind of didn't worry about it too much. You tried to not be around so that
Right.
the stray stuff didn't hit you. But
Right.
you weren't scared to not come home because of that.
Right.
That's
Right.
the thing.
You were scared to come home late because you came home a little bit after the street light went.
Right. Your
Then
parents
you was
weren't
like,
My
out
oh,
there.
parents, I was scared of them, not the police.
right.
Right. But
Yeah.
we were scared and still are fearful of the police in some way.
And I don't even know
And
why. I don't even know
we
why.
didn't know why either.
No,
I
like
didn't know why for
earlier
a long
on when
time.
I started acting, like, mommy used to ask me all the time, like, Koya, why do you always act weird when the police are like, we're in the car, me and mommy. Even when I was younger, I used to just be like, ugh. Like I just like, and she'd be like, why
It's an
are you
energy
responding
that
that
they put off. It's an
I,
energy that
way?
they put off that we can feel, and it taps into that
I
stress.
was way
And
too
then we're
young to
like,
act like that. Like,
listen, historically, the police were not there to serve and protect us.
right,
Koya Matt, and
but
Mom.
we had officers
We're at
like
West,
friendly and
and
stuff.
were we not shown images of like lynch mobs?
Yeah.
yes,
Were police at those lynch mobs?
yes,
But we
Were
had
they
the friendly
standing like
police and
yay, or were they breaking the fights up?
we had the police
right.
that had
They
the
were
They were
yaying,
celebrating.
we had
right,
community police in our actual school though. So
It
like,
was
the officer friendly, situation that we had back then was so different. But literally maybe as soon as we left DC, I felt that way every time I saw a cop. Like I
like
don't
put it this way, I could go to any hood. I'm not as worried about the people in the hood as I'm worried about the
the feds
police
rolling
seeing
up
me
on
and
the
saying he not from this hood.
hood.
I'm not worried about the guy saying I'm not from this hood. I feel like I could communicate with them. Okay, yes, I'm not from this hood. I'm going to see such and such, or I'm moving through the blah 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 blah. Because I'm from the hood, I understand how to talk to them, and
Right.
it's not like this.
But when we were
But
little, we were taught like go to the police officer. If you see a police officer, go over there and tell him your name and say you got lost. And now I'm like, I'm not telling you nothing.
but I always had a feeling being in another place or on road trips and stuff. We don't worry about the people. We worried about some people, depending on what state
Because of the
and
police
county
and the
and what.
people
And if the
that they
people
go
in the
bring in.
place we worried about, then we worried about the police because the police is part of the people, and then we worried about all that. And we have to do that all the time.
And
I
you
gotta walk
remember
down the street. I don't know if this guy
The
like
fact
me or not.
that
He could be
mommy,
one of them.
the fact that mommy had to prep me with a long list of things to not do just to go to like dream and love and like just go to the club. Just go to the
Right,
club.
Lily.
Just going to the club, and she would be like, "Okay, I need you to make sure you do this, and don't let anybody do anything with their drink. And I need you to make sure you do this, and carry your keys like this when you walk down the street to the car." And I'm like, and we still got robbed, and we still got the car broken into. But but it is what it is. But it's so normal for us now to think that way when we prepare to go out, that we have to think about all these different things. Like, and to think that there are humans that get to literally just leave their house and be like, I'm going to the beach today with 30 of my friends. Let's hop in this car. And we're not worried about anything.
And we're like,
no,
we can take separate cars.
I'm like, we can take separate cars. You take some of this in your car. We're going to take some of this in this car. You put this over here. You come sit with me because you look like you don't know how to shut up when the cops come. You go over here and you go sit over there with grandma. And then, no, get out of here.
It's a lot of planning.
And you have to also know, when we were traveling by car, we couldn't go to the restrooms. We couldn't eat all along the way. So that's why you guys, I love my fried chicken, and you got to give me some Wonder Bread, because she got special Wonder Bread for the trip to go with your fried chicken and a piece of fruit. And I don't know what we drank.
Talk about fried chicken and watermelon and Wonder Bread.
Wonder Bread.
She said,
because we had to bring our brown bag.
I got a watermelon for y'all.
We had to bring our brown bag of food because we couldn't eat from North Carolina to DC, and we did that trip often. Okay. It was crazy. You had to learn how to pee on the side of the road.
These are all the things that you taught us to learn as well, though.
It's a lot. I'm sorry.
I don't even think we needed a reason for it, but we definitely learned all these.
I don't know.
Well, Mommy, we still can't stop everywhere. We still are very careful about what towns we stop in. We'd be like, we only get this one. We go to the gas station, putting the pump in the car.
I was just telling a story about that because I'm an avid road trip person. I've done plenty of road trips. I've driven across the country 3 times. I've been to Canada, everywhere in the car, right?
Yeah.
So I have rules for the road for specific reasons, mainly for the police. Because I can't drive, not worried about the police. Like, I cannot drive anywhere not worried about the police. Like, it's not a thing that I can possibly do at all. Like, if I get in a car, I'm like, police, where are the police? Got to make sure I'm looking for the police, okay? That's first of all. But I was telling a story about being in, what do you call this place? Louisiana, and doing a road trip coming back from Houston with some frat and my homegirl Rocka, Rhonda, Zakia Carlisle, there's a bunch of us, and we were doing a documentary. We're coming back. We're in Louisiana on the 10. Now, if you ever been on the 10, at a certain point it's basically just a bridge going one way and a bridge going the other way over the swamp. Okay. It's an expansive, like, maybe I think it's like 20 miles or some crazy distance, just straight. Like, if you're going this way, there's no turning around until you get to the end and going back. Like, this is what it is. So we get on there. We had gas, but we were low on money because we had a lot of snafus that happened on the trip. Like, the car actually broke down. We had to fix the timing belt, all type of shit. It's a miracle trip, right? So we're low on money. So we're like, all right, we're going to push the gas. We know we could get to the end of the bridge. Should be a gas station, whatever. We see the signs for the gas station. We get to the end of the bridge. We hit the road. We're in the back country. It's like 4 something in the morning, right? We realize we're in the back country somewhere in Louisiana, okay, by the swamp. All right. Already, my alarm is going ding, 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 ding. I'm riding with 2 people from the Bahamas. They've never been on a road trip longer than 2 hours. They don't know nothing about. They don't have the same emergency. They not. One of the young ladies is asleep. The other young lady is in the back. She's not paying attention. But I'm starting to be like, oh gosh, get to this gas station. It's a pickup truck over there. 2 guys. They looking at us.
Over there. Don't go over there.
Long story short, okay, this gas station was so spooky, all right, the gas took forever. We got $10 worth of gas. It took like 5 minutes to give us almost a gallon of gas. It was taking forever, to the point where the way that the truck sped off. So we're getting ready to go into the joint. The truck sped off after they looked at me and Carlisle getting ready to go into the shop. I had to tell him, I said, listen, I don't like how this is turning out. It's for something in the morning. This is a tackle, bait, and gun ammo gas station. We're right on the swamp. We're being swarmed by mosquitoes that feel like are telling us to get away. And these guys just peeled off in the truck. And he's like, but I was like, it's not good. After the gas was taking too long, I went inside, picked up a little gator head, said, look, the gas taking too long. Keep the money. I'm gonna take this little gator head. We out of here. Swear to God, when we pulled off, I swear there's a pickup truck coming down the back down the damn roads, and I'm booking it now down the road. Like, no, not gonna be us. But these are the things. Like, it could have been simple. They could have been a whole nother pickup truck or nothing. But this is being black. A car in the South, in the back country, Louise. Listen, I don't trust none of them.
But that's how you have to move. Like, I strategize every single like situation that happens. Like, I have been in the weirdest situations where just stuff happens and I'm looking around like, am I the only black person in this room? We're gonna have to strategize what's about to happen, guys. Okay.
Koya won't even go to Savage Meal right out here in Arundel.
Savage
meal. No
meal. Savage meal.
I don't like that name. I'm good on that.
No, I'm cool. So I think about like when there were things that happened where maybe like a fire department has to show up, or the police got to show up because somebody did something stupid like next door to you, like, you know. And so I'm always like strategizing. Like, I know, like, back when I was young, like when I was doing like the Disney stuff and just college and around that time, like there were girls that got drunk and stuff like that, and then people that like went too far and you had to have the ambulance come. But I'm looking around like, I got 5 roommates. I'm the black one. They all something else, and we got some white ones. But the white one is the one that's messed up. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go in the back room, guys. I'm gonna go in the back room. I'll let y'all talk to them. Because
I'm gonna leave and let y'all talk to them.
Y'all
talk to them back.
Because they were like, we were all like, everybody was tipsy. I wasn't at the time because I was underage, but I was like, I don't like how this is gonna play out. They were like, Koy, you're gonna be fine. You know what? But I'm gonna go in the back room. I got something to do. Don't worry about it. You know, like, so I've had to like think like that. And just because depending on where you are, like I went to college in Savannah, like there were so many situations there that were just, the feds down there were extra. So when like our friends started having cars down there and driving and stuff, that became like a whole thing. And then the older community down there is it's like walking in a plantation. Like,
it is. That's what it looks like.
No, it's just like they still comfortably speak to each other that way, though. Like, still,
what do we call that? What do we call that?
I might say, yeah, you know, how you doing, but I'm not about to be yes, ma'am, and y'all don't even know you. Like,
Shani, what do we call that?
Yes, PTSS. They stuck in it too.
Right.
They
stuck in it too.
So listen.
Racism is in them. They can't even help it.
Right. So
we don't want to say y'all racist. They don't want us to say it, but it's true.
I have clients that will literally tell me that they sought out a black female therapist because they wanted to be nurtured and taken care of. It ain't just in us. And these are younger people.
That they want to be nurtured?
Yeah. You know, through a black woman.
I understand.
They wanted to be mammied
about that. Like, I used to make the joke about how all the white movies when we were growing up always had like the black savior that comes in, or the friend that tells you the really good advice.
Gives you the good advice.
You know, like.
And so, but this is okay. So yes. So Black children and Black parents. Black parents, we train our kids differently. Our children go through like rites of passages, that the conversation about the police, how to conduct yourself in white spaces. Right. You have to work 10 times harder. We are covertly reinforcing the idea that we are not the same and not as good by telling our kids they have to work 10 times harder, even though we know there's a truth to that. You got to think about how that might be internalized. It turns into perfectionism and imposter syndrome. When you are a part of a group of people that have a stereotype around competence, you are navigating a white space. You can have all the accomplishments in the world, stamped, signed, sealed, delivered, and you will still feel different in that space. You will still feel like you don't belong there. Love and belonging is what creates competence. And when our world, we're like forced to navigate these spaces and we're the minority, we lose a sense of that love and belonging, and therefore our confidence goes with it. And then we don't fight for the promotions. We don't speak the way we want to speak. We don't wear our hair the way we want to wear it. All of that post-traumatic stress, all of it, because we are in constant preparation for being mistreated. And so we train our kids differently. We train our parents. Parenting, listen, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do as a parent. I don't know whether to give him the messages, give my son the messages so that he knows what he's dealing with, but also instilling tons of love, but also don't want to coddle him too much because I want him to be strong, but also don't want to do too much for him because I don't want him to be weak. I'm confused.
Preach.
Because parents have to train their kids so differently. We can't just focus on academics.
Yeah.
Academics aren't enough. How many smart people do y'all know in y'all friend circle who are super intelligent that can't quite seem to get there?
Yep. Lots.
Why do you think that is?
I was going to say, and what I was going to actually piggyback using that as an example, like, why do we think that there are people who are willing to not only, they're not putting out that thing, like, why should we have to put out 10 times as much when we're just as smart? Now, can you see how that's stressful enough? You're like, I'm not about to do that extra work. So then that goes into a mindset. What about the people who are getting assistance, and that's generational assistance, and we talk about, oh, they on welfare and all this stuff, but they just want to not have to do the
Even
work
playing
anymore.
field.
They might be psychologically disabled
And psychologically tired.
Just
think about
out, not able to
yeah.
reach their full potential. And like, listen, I get a lot of backlash for saying things like that. You're giving people excuses. Listen, no, this is context. That's all.
Context, and it's not everyone, but we gotta. I think we have to weigh in all of those different categories, so that we can recognize how this seeps in and becomes a different way of life, a different way that people think and how they're trying to live. You know, some people just want to, like, there are people in other races, the Caucasian, others, who are comfortable living plenty middle class lifestyle out in the woods, or more rural, just like working hard and like building your own thing, just like doing that. And they're like, we work hard, we build what we have, and you guys can do the same thing. But for us, it's like, do you know how much work we have? Like, we still have to work 10 times as hard to maintain that.
That's true.
And we're not comfortable, which is why we're always seeking more.
Well,
And
not
they
only
can't
do we have to
understand
work,
why we
not only
can't
do
just
we
be
have
okay
to work,
with that.
not only do we have to work harder, you have to work. It's so crazy. So as a female, it's like you have to work harder, but also to assert yourself as a female, especially if it's like a male heavy demographic you're dealing with or immersed in. It's like, on top of the fact that we know we have to do a little extra, I feel like we get caught in the angry Black woman situation, or the assertive. Oh, you're so assertive, you're so aggressive. But it's like, when you're asserting yourself in a certain way, and then you got to deal with that. So then you got to deal with coming off assertive to to white people, but then you got to come off a certain way to men. And then it's like a whole, I don't even know. It's so much preparation.
Thanks,
and like it's so much preparation that you have to do. Like and during critiques, when I used to do art critiques in school, it was very like when you do the nice and meek and mild and everything like that, they're like, oh, like, is she smart? Like, like, man, she's just fun, and then you become the intelligent person
from pet to threat.
Exactly. And then they're like, what, why, when is Koi gonna shut up? Like, oh my God. Like, it becomes this thing. So you really never know
how to perform,
which way to perform.
I know my parents had a difficulty time with it because they wanted me to love all people, respect all people, and accept people for who they are, where they are in life. Right. So that's what I was taught. And I did feel safe. But you know what? My mom and dad never let me out of their sight. I didn't go to clubs like everybody else. I was a cheerleader, and I would go to the games, drop my friends off, and come home. I don't remember us going out to do something else. I remember going to 7-Eleven and maybe getting us some moonshine to sneak around with. But then that at work because I needed to be at home. And my dad, if I was at a dance at the Y, he would come and get me.
You did moonshine at the 7-Eleven?
We learn more and more about you every day.
That moonshine, we out here drinking booms and stuff. You drinking moonshine? That's it.
No, I said it's called. It was Boone's Farm. A cheap wine when you drink it out the bag.
We know what Boone's, but you said moonshine. I was like, wait a minute.
No, Boone's Farm. They sold a Boone's Farm at a 7-Eleven.
I know what Boone's Farm is. They still
but that was in high school. I mean, I didn't drink because if I drink, I'm gonna throw up. So
oh God,
that hasn't changed. But I think that my parents, they kept me close, y'all. I mean, real close. As I think back, they didn't let me go.
Well, we know
I drove my own car
in your prom outfit, so
I drove my own car.
And listen, that trickled down to us. You kept us very close,
real close.
Yeah,
we did everything close. And y'all had a heart attack when I started branching out. Y'all had a fit. I didn't do anything, but
I felt like you ran off the plantation.
I do.
I was like, she did. Plantation and she left us here. Why are you leaving us on the plantation?
Had a fight though. Good Lord, y'all.
I had to go get her. Right. That's why cars are so much to me. My dad made sure I had my own car. Even when I came to Howard, I had my own car. He said because I didn't ride in a car with a guy until I met Steve. I mean, I drove all the time.
Oh, so your boyfriends in high school, you were driving?
I was driving. And, Mom had her brain surgery. So I was a lot of, I had to be more independent at that 16-year-old stage. But he said, you always have control when you drive yourself. So I never had dates where they drove and, I get this. No. I think Steve might have been the first person that ever drove me anywhere. And I was 27?
So that was your father putting in place a safety precaution for you to make sure that, nope, you're not going to be snatched up. You're not walking. You're not on the bus. You're not out here on the streets at all for those extra things to happen to you, or you're subject to being in a car with a man, which was probably a big thing that most of the guys had vehicles.
Right.
So he wasn't, and we could look at that as being like the father that's adding those, machismo stereotypes on like how men are, but I don't think it was more against the men that you may have been dating, but it's about the environment, like making sure that you can get from point A to point B.
Think her story is
and a random pick 'em up truck ain't gonna be driving around looking to pick 'em up.
Oh no,
I don't think that was the case. I think that in her case in particular, there was a part of me that just from putting the story together that feels like he knew he was going to leave early in her life. And
That's
he
true.
prepped her all along the way. Like the fact that she was driving in the mountains, knows how to drive with chains on the tires.
Tires,
You know,
change a
he
tire,
taught her how to sign his signature,
change the oil.
write write a check, sign his signature. You know, like there were just certain things that he put in place.
That's true.
Well, to prepare her for the world that she was in too. But I don't think I think he really wanted her to be independent.
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, because he died after my freshman year at Howard. That's how I got the car for school. He said, "Oh, yeah, I don't need a car where I'm going." I was like, "Where you going? You getting a new car?" You know. And he was always joking that I didn't pay that line
Leo
any
Doofus.
attention.
That would be your answer. I would have been like, "What you say? You dying?
That-
What's happening? What's going on? When is this happening? When is this going on?"
So we have a question by a viewer,
Oh,
Louise.
hey,
Hello. What's your thought on receiving knowledge from various sources
on
for
advice.
advice? I'm not sure I understand that.
So you're not caught what's called the echo chamber.
Are you asking as far as advice to how to get people to understand what we're talking about? Like try to understand that there's a cycle, like resources for education.
Including
Are
ideas
you
from
talking
like
about?
other groups of people.
You said what?
Like including like ideas and thoughts and information from other groups of people, other sources, other information.
I was
other than
I
our
was
own
going to ask you, Shani,
Me?
because I'm thinking that this talk about PTSS and us assessing it for our community also needs to be assessed for their community in a different way to because we got to understand that all sides have these generational things. One side's generational thing is to oppress, the other side's is being oppressed. And there's a fight that this is what the young people are going through. They're trying to break it now because we've gotten to the point where it just shouldn't be.
yeah.
Any of these things just shouldn't be, and we should not have to deal with it. Period.
Right.
So, I think in particular because of part of our trauma is being removed from our history and our information and our culture and our traditions. We were removed from that in an effort to have us assimilated and in an effort to get us to accept conditions that, aren't good for us. We have to get back to our information. Our information is the information that's missing.
Yes.
It's not the information from the majority culture. We got it.
Right.
But in order to even be able to consider other schools of thought and other sources of information, we really need to be stronger and more grounded in our own. We need to figure out who we are going to be now.
Absolutely.
And then I think we can navigate these other things differently by accessing more of our personal power, getting back to our traditions, incorporating that, being able to have like choices over what we let in and what we expel. But right now we're still under the influence. So I think there's always value in including information from other sources and cultures and in family systems and things like that. But ours is the one that's been tainted with.
So we have to be rooted in. We have to figure out what it is and then root ourselves in it.
And
we need to segregate ourselves, basically.
Yeah. Other
things. Trying to not use the word, Matthew.
Huh?
I was trying not to use the word.
Can we use a different word? But I mean,
I explained it.
I tried to think of many in my brain.
Matthew,
Don't
I
have
was
it.
trying to not give it a word. I gave it an express. I was explaining it.
Right, but it's
and
what it is.
Like,
we need to
segregation.
like in a way, as a community, in order to build that economic base up. And it's not about saying like we want to separate everything. No, not socially, not lifestyle things. Just I think there's some core things though. Healthcare.
What does that look like?
Right?
In such a mixed culture.
What does what look like?
What does that look like? We have so many people who are
I got to answer for that.
and mixed with other
I
cultures.
got to answer for that. If we go within first, I think we are more equipped to help outwardly with the mixes and even to other races. I think that if we, like, say for instance, I'm thinking about like healthcare, right? If we focus our healthcare on us mentally, physically,
Mhm.
our doctors, our people getting us right, all of there's already other information. The others have theirs. You see what I'm saying? We need to have ours a little
Not
bit
the
more.
mixed people, they don't.
Well,
What is
their other part, their other half, whatever that is, does. And so we need to this half
that
of the
other half?
mix,
Yeah, that other half ain't helping.
huh?
That
What do you
ain't
what,
other half is not gonna help them.
no,
They
but
gonna miss the other
the
half.
information of the other half. We're talking about something like healthcare, right? Most of the
Mhm.
healthcare is built on their research on them for them, right?
Right. Right.
If we start to have our own healthcare for our research for us on us, even
Okay.
the mixed people can be fixed with that because then we will
Right.
have a better understanding of that side of them, our side of them, because we
Right.
already have an understanding of the other side.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's already
In
documented.
the
That's
book.
so
Right.
we don't need that for
Right.
them. We can help them with that. And if they have their family on that side that wants to contribute to the building on this side, so that's
You
how
know,
we build.
it's
We
hard
have to
because
build within,
I
and
just
then
had this conversation when I went to the doctor recently. Like, I had a really good experience with a female black doctor, and I was like, this might have been the first time that I was like comfortable with a doctor for real. Like, I was really thinking about it, and I was like, most of my doctors have been either um they've either been from the islands or Indian. And I just had this experience, and she didn't give me the questions I'm used to answering when I go to a doctor or the hospital. She didn't minimize my pain. She did not ask me questions that had nothing to do with why I was there. It was really the first time I think I'm 39. That is the first time I've had that experience going in, being dealt with what I came in for.
because she's a part of your community.
I mean, yes, but it
She
doesn't always
understands.
work like that with our community, even the doctors. Sometimes it doesn't. They got other stuff
Well,
behind that.
that's because
So,
that's because they're involved in that bigger community, that overall community that is not trying to.
yeah,
It's not for us. It's for them. They're
right,
taught stuff for them. They want them to be able to heal them,
right.
not heal. They're like, yeah, you can work on. Yeah, this will work on them too. But
Well, that
are
and
they a
people
little?
pushing different agendas, like everybody got big farm agendas and stuff like that. But I'm just saying, this was the first time I was really like, wow, I felt safe. I felt comfortable. Like the young lady who just died from her C-section. Like, I think about stuff like that all the time because I really do think we need our own people when it comes to certain things, because I think they understand our bodies more and how we react to things, and they hear us.
And Black women are believed the least when it comes to pain. When it comes to expression and women reporting pain, we are believed the least. Emotional pain, physical pain, we are believed the least.
I guarantee if where we had a medical facility that concentrated just on us, that was facilitated with us, then things would be different. If it was a maternity ward, guaranteed there would be the mortality rate would be to the lowest you would ever see in black women. There would be like you don't understand because we don't get a chance. All of our doctors got to go
Right.
over
Right,
here
But
right,
be in that
so
system.
we even
So when
talk
they get
about our hospitals, but all of my children were born at Howard Hospital,
right.
and I had that camaraderie. When I had Koya, there were nothing but female doctors in that room,
Mm-hmm.
and three of them had just had babies.
Mm.
So you're talking about feeling safe, and this was a difficult pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
Even that delivery was amazing, and I just think that we just have to learn how to
Yeah, I
know
haven't
our
felt safe
history.
since Timberlake was my doctor. I ain't felt safe
Yes,
since that
a-
doctor. So
yes,
yeah.
absolutely. And she delivered and made sure everything was in place, whether she was there or not.
Mhm.
And I miss that because I don't have um that family of doctors anymore. The other
Me,
part is when we're talking with our children, I wanted to kind of get back a little bit what Louise was trying to say
Mhm.
is information. Where do you get the information from? How do you present it to your different family members, whether it's your children, and if you do have different family members, what do you do, and how, and what kind of information do you believe in? And you
Mhm.
got to know your history, because it's
Mhm.
like you sit on a plane, you got to put your mask on before you can help anybody else.
Mhm.
And we need to understand our current American history, what's
Mhm.
shown up in the Constitution, what shows up at the voting polls, what shows up in the White House, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and not be afraid of it or ashamed of it,
And
but be aware
also
of it in order to teach your children, because you
and
are going to
also
have to teach your children.
your
Yes,
partner, if you have kids, your partner needs to also be informed about, even if that y'all are the same, if y'all the same or if you're different.
right.
If both parents need to be very aware, one, so that your partner, because that is a thing that I have seen break down during this time, during this, after George Floyd, a lot of my interracial couples, no matter what their background was, they have conflicts because they're not having conversation. They didn't know what their core belief was, I feel like, until this moment. I will say that. I think there are a lot of people who don't realize that until it happens. And then your belief systems start coming out. And there are so many couples who don't exactly know what to say to their children because they not on the same page. They not even reacting and responding the same way to the things happening. Not even COVID. They're not, so they're not even responding the same to that. And then they have to go tell their children what to do. Like, what?
We are an amazing group of people, and we need to embrace it. We have sustained so much, and now it's time for us to learn to thrive and not always have to live from moment to moment to worry about our lives. Our friends are like, the allies are like, well, are you standing beside us? And I said, when I can stand, I will. But right now, I can't stand. I'm barely standing on my own.
Right.
And then I worry about my children and I worry about my grandchildren. And I'm furious. I'm pissed at where we are today because this was not what I went through at 3 to have for my children and my grandchildren,
Right.
you know? And it just never changed. We got lulled to sleep with labels.
Mm.
Um, and we as a people lull ourselves to sleep. To thine own self be true, chick. You know, you're black, you're in America. If you have African descendants, you were born and raised in the USA. That's as simple as that. But you got to get in touch with who you are, why you are, and what you need to do from here, and be okay about it. Stop trying to
Mm.
skirt over stuff with your children. They already know. I'm telling you, at 3 and 4, I knew. I didn't know how to
Yeah.
departmentalize it, but I
Well,
knew.
the kids know before we do.
They do. But just because they can't
I
talk
know. I know. I'm
doesn't
so
mean they're
sorry.
not
I am
hearing.
so sorry, sister. I'm so.
Yeah, it doesn't mean
You
that they're
have
not
a woke child.
hearing.
Your child is
Yeah, she does.
real
He's
awakened out there at this point.
he's very aware, and you don't have to tell him a thing because he
We
he
just look at
feels
him like, what
something.
you say?
Hmm?
I just look at him sometimes like, what? Like,
I
I didn't.
know.
I was not prepared for that response.
I know.
Yeah, he knows. You can't label it. You have to know that children are living beings, and they can hear you in the womb.
Well,
They can hear you
I have
talking.
friends that said their young kids are just like talking about death randomly. Like they not tripping. They just like saying it. Like they just
Yeah.
talking about death or they're talking about police officers. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like it's
well,
just
just like with trying to get rid of and find solutions to help us with generational trauma. I think right now we're going through a trauma throughout the entire world that is affecting the youngest generation the most because people over them, their adults, their parents, are freaking out and don't know what to do for them, instead of looking at this like they have a new
Mhm.
world.
Mhm.
Okay. This is all they know. They don't know
Mhm.
what you know. Don't try
That's
to
true.
put what you know onto them. I mean, put the good stuff that you know onto them, but don't put what you know about the old world, how it worked and how things went, onto them. Try to help them establish a new way of thinking about the world. And I think that's the biggest problem right now. There's all these factions want things to go back to so much back to normal that it's because they don't want to have to have things different for their kids because they're good. And I
Mm.
think that's the PT something. Okay, because to them,
Reverse. Reverse.
right?
Right.
Because they good, they comfortable in their little life. They what they do and all that. They don't have to worry about nothing. They're not worried about the cops. They're not worried about nothing. They
I
don't
mean,
care.
kids are resilient. They're resilient. But what's happening now is there are still a lot of parents that skirt through stuff with their kids, though. Like, there are parents that struggle. They don't know what age is a good age to talk to them about certain things, you know? And I understand that. But now there's just things happening publicly that it's like you're going to have these conversations. Like,
But
but if you are not grounded in what you believe in and what your people believe in and where they came from, you're gonna have a rough one because them kids gonna start asking you questions. You ain't gonna have the answers. Okay.
they
My
do have really
4-year-old
good.
nephew asked me questions and I look at him stupid in the face all the time. And I'm smart. I be like this. I mean, I had a
y'all seen my deer in the headlights look every time Fox is
because I
at
be
me.
ready for a kid answer, and I be looking at him like, hold on, Slim. I'm gonna have to go like sit down and like have a conversation.
This is a funny thing. This is so I got sent a video by a buddy of mine, and in
Mm.
the video, basically what happened was, a a white man was teaching his son how to shoot. Boom. Okay, great job. All right. Next scene, you see a black man in the store, and you see the little boy in the store. He's looking at the black man. The black man is playing with a little toy or something. Has a little toy. The little boy sees the little toy. He's smiling. Black man shows the toy. Little boy's excited, right? The father of the little boy looks over and was like, "Are you messing with my son?" The man's like, "No, he was looking at the toy." He was like, "Don't bother with my son." Woo, 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 woo. So it's the whole thing. You got a problem, blah, blah, blah. The black man was like, "You're the problem," because it was basically a racial thing.
Right.
So he walks out. The white man calls his boys. The mother grabs the boy. Him and his boys go beat up the black man in front of his wife and kids, right?
No.
God.
So later on in the scene, and so we see that ends, right? So it's trauma. Everybody experienced trauma. Even a little boy being held back by his mother has experienced trauma. His father beat up this guy, right? That he was just like, that was a nice guy. The
Right.
kid hadn't put it together yet, right? Why his father was mad. He didn't even know that he was being conditioned. All right. The family is stopped on the road or whatever. Something happens. The guy is kidnapped by a group of black guys. They pull up on him. They kidnap the white guy, right? You see him in the joint. You see a tattoo artist come in and put tattoos on him. They tattoo his whole body black.
Oh Jesus.
Drop him off on the middle of the road in front of his house. He runs into his home. Honey, honey, honey. His wife pulls out a gun on him. Get out of my house, you. What are you doing here? Woo, woo, woo. He's like, no, honey, it's me. No, honey, it's me. And then she's like, oh my God. Oh my gosh, what's wrong with you? So she starts to put her freaking down. Bang, he shot in the chest. Dead. He falls. Guess who shot him?
The son.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because he was conditioned
Oh.
before he knew he was conditioned, and now he thinks that that's a threat. So
Mm.
it was a deep video on like how
Woo.
this conditioning
Right.
goes to the kids, because they showed the little boy and the black dude's son looking at the other little boy, and I thought it was gonna go there. I thought it was gonna be like he see him at school and beat his ass. I didn't know where it was
Right.
gonna go. It's all these different things that happen, and we don't realize like that's the same
Well,
thing that
even Fox saw one moment in a movie,
One
and
snippet.
somehow it has translated to humans and police and other humans and children. And I'm like, wait, where did it go? It went so far. But he's probably feeling all these energies in this world right now. They're just so unstable. Like everything is because they can feel y'all. If
I
you,
mean,
you
he had just a very basic reaction to it initially, which
right,
was, why did they shoot
was
him?
that a basic reaction?
Why did they shoot him?
Oh, right.
Kyle goes, it was an accident. They thought he was someone else. And he goes, why didn't they just ask?
And you said it's not an accident.
What I said was, they didn't give him time to ask. And this is what like mistaken identity is, right? And then he goes into this, him trying to protect himself from something like this happening to him. He
So
goes,
it started with him
if
talking about
this
he's like,
ever happens
right?
to me, I'm going to change my clothes so they don't mistake me for a bad guy. I said, well, you know, in this case, it really wasn't about the clothes. It was about the skin. And he goes, well, then I'll hold my hands up like this so that they can see that I'm white. And then I'll be okay. And now we get into the thing about, you know, I'm black and I'm proud. Like,
what is your face
I
look
know.
like?
I'm black and I'm proud. Say it
What is
loud.
your faces? What did y'all's faces look like the moment he said that?
which part?
This part.
The hands. I was talking. He was
That was
talking to me first, and so
And
I
what
looked
you
like
do?
a deer in headlights, and my whole body just shook. I did everything but cry,
I
and I
probably
went,
cried.
"Oh no!" But
I
you're
cried
beautiful,
when you told me. I was like, what?
because he said, "Grandma, I don't want to be black anymore." That's how he started it out, and I said,
Not because
"What?"
he doesn't like black, but because he's afraid of being hurt.
I get it.
Yes, that's what he said. He said, "I don't want to be killed by the cops."
But you can see
Now,
if that message runs wild, it turns into internalized,
Hey,
your internalized hate.
and if you come from a family or something that is pushing a certain agenda for you to get educated and to go to these schools,
yeah,
and you feel like this on the low on the inside because
yeah,
you know it's
And
no,
you're
so
a
now
minority.
that's that assimilation
Right.
thing again coming right back around.
And then you get into a place of constant performance because you're trying to
Mhm.
belong, right? And if you're in
Yes,
a constant place of performance, you're not really using everything you got in here to be your
Mm.
your highest potential. Okay, nerd alert, X-Men, Mystique. Do y'all remember in, I think it was First Class. Was it First Class? It was First Class. The movie
Mhm.
First Class. And she is walking around as Jennifer Lawrence instead of her true form.
Okay.
And then Magneto comes in and it's like,
Oh
do you
wait,
know,
we talking about the young Mystique.
we're talking about the young class,
Okay.
first class.
Okay.
So Magneto comes in and it's like, do you know how powerful you would be if you were not using so much of your energy to hide? You
Mm.
know how much more power you would have
I remember that.
because
That
you're
was a big
using
moment.
energy all day to be Jennifer Lawrence instead of Mystique. And she's like, I can't walk around the world blue.
Blue?
Like they hate me. I can't walk around like this. So she uses all of her energy to mask herself a blonde white girl, right? You know, to fit in, to belong, for love and
wow,
belonging. And he goes, "You would be so much more powerful. You're beautiful. You would be so much more powerful if you would just allow yourself to be you, and then you could actually use all your power for other things instead of splitting this up and being, you know, half great."
Yeah.
So the messages that we ended up with is not all cops are bad.
Okay.
right.
People do bad things sometimes.
Right.
Black is beautiful, and you don't need to hide to be safe. But I understand why you're scared. So we left it with that.
Yeah. Oh, we did do.
It's
We
that
did say, "I'm black and I'm proud." He liked that.
Oh, but did that make him? Did that change his energy a little?
in the
For
moment.
that day.
In the moment, but it comes up. It comes back up.
Okay.
And then
It's
we have
gonna
to
have
How
to be
do
a
we?
constant.
again.
It's gonna be constant from
And
now
we
on.
have to have a conversation again.
I think it's good because it's going to instill now early for him who he is so that he can be strong in who he is. Remember, it's a new world. So instead of trying to have an assimilated type of mindset, he now is going to be able to grow up knowing that he can be who he is and things should be a certain way for who he is. And hopefully, by the time he gets to an age where it really matters, things have shifted some.
Right.
I
I
mean,
guess
That
for me,
that's,
insight.
that's what I hope for.
I was distraught because I looked at it like he just said all these things that make sense to try if this would
Yeah.
is the issue with
Ask.
cop.
Why don't
And
you just ask?
but in my mind, I thought about all those things, and I was like,
Ain't
none
none
of
of
them
that
jump
work.
like,
And I didn't have the heart to say all of that. But I was thinking that too. I was thinking we tried to change our hair, we tried to change our clothes, we tried to change our language, we tried to align, right? We've tried all those things, and they haven't worked. And so I don't have.
we had very
I'm not going there with
strange
him.
names.
I
Hmm?
have to
Like
give
we grew up in the 80s with very different names, and but we also were walking around with African clothes. So like,
Thanks. I have a great example of
we was gonna get it regardless.
when when my hair was when my that's terrible, Koya. When my hair
I
was
mean,
straight, I had it straight, cut in a little bob, and it was blonde, and it was the exact same haircut of one of my colleagues who was white,
no, it wasn't. It
whose
didn't. They
hair
didn't
was
say it was.
blonde, and so and I said, "Ooh, we have the same haircut." And she looked at me and said, "No, we don't. Your hair is black and curly." Uh,
But
No,
I remember that was the same. It was the wasn't like you. But this has happened to you recently too. When you get
yes,
your haircut
recently.
short, you have a white coworker who has a very similar haircut. Two of them. One has curly hair and one has straight hair.
Right.
And I remember someone else saw y'all, and everybody was like, "Oh, you got a haircut," and they got a haircut, and I was like, "It's the same haircut," and they were just like, "No, it's not."
No. She
And I
said,
was
"No, your hair is," but she
like,
said, "My hair is straight and blonde." I was like, "Yeah, mine is too." And the black person that was standing there was like, yeah, y'all got the same haircut." And this woman could not see me. She
No,
could not.
no, mommy. Do you know how many white women come to me with curly hair and ask me how did I get my hair curly? Same curly hair though, like looks like their hair, like they had curls like mine, and I was like, I washed it, and they were like, and then what?
They don't know.
I air dry. I was like, what do you do? They were like, oh, I just washed it and put a little product and I go out. Yeah, me too.
But they don't, black people try to change themselves, don't understand that they still see us as black. It doesn't matter whether you wear African clothes or a
Well,
t-shirt and jeans or hair straight or change your speech.
and then they get
Or
confused when
police
they see your
uniform.
family members. If your family members don't look the same, that they real confused.
Oh yeah, because you brought
'Cause
your aunt around and they thought something had happened.
my auntie came into my job and they was like, "Who is there's a white lady up front and she's here to see you." And I was like, "White lady?" I was like, "The only person I know that's coming is my aunt." So I go, I was like, "Oh, hey, auntie." They looking at me like, "By y'all are blood?" I was like, "Yeah." But then they saw y'all and it's like they're confused. They were like, "Okay, but your mama's brown, your auntie is white, but not. She just tricked you. And your sister is like kind of brown." It's like they get confused. They don't know what's happening.
But it's okay. I get that. But they're different too. So
I don't really know how they know who to chastise and to not, because we look so different. Like,
that's true. We do. But
you
they
know,
have
For
only one
us,
picture. They have an Ain't Your Mama picture and a Amos and Andy or Uncle Remus or whatever that is. Those are the two pictures they know, regardless of their
and these
age.
faces. It's funny.
That's it.
I
that's it.
love
That's
it.
it.
And it's
Those are
not their.
trained
They just
faces.
know
Those
Barack
are
Obama
But I'm
and
saying
Michelle
that,
Obama. That's it.
yeah.
They
I'm
know
just
those
saying
two
it's not their
people.
fault. It is a part of their DNA, like being enslaved is part of ours.
Is it not your fault to educate yourself?
but our people have
Not if you don't
you have
know.
the education has to be out there. The education has to be. We're just talking about this as like a major thing. Shanice's colleagues and her industry, their whole thing is just bringing this to a forefront to you know to even be considered as something that we need to think about. And I'm sure they still not thinking about the other people. They only thinking about okay, how do we just associate this with black people. No, it's associated with all the people that were involved in this situation.
What terminology, Shani?
Where'd she go?
I don't know. What where would that be used? In what situations would no understanding post-traumatic slave syndrome? In what situation in real life would it be helpful for professionals or someone to understand that, like, how can this be implemented in real life to understand that this is a real thing?
Well, it's coming up a lot with like people working and trying to navigate their work environments, people who work in mostly white spaces, and people who are high functioning, tons of accomplishments. They got their degrees. They did all the things they thought they needed to do in order to be viewed as the same, and are still not being treated this way. This is also happening in education. Mm-hmm. So it's coming up as we were talking about, like that imposter syndrome. The evidence says I'm good enough, but I'm not being paid the same. I'm not getting the recognition. I'm not getting the promotions. And when I try to set boundaries or challenge people, I'm treated as hostile, and I'm, fired, alienated, and I'm not given the same opportunities. There's no place for me at the table. Mm. And they're upset and they're angry. The performance, they're performing, they might go into a space where everyone is, kind of dressed casually, but they will not wear that suit to work. They like to be dressed down Friday if you want to. I'm still wearing my suit because y'all can dress down, but I can't.
Right. That's true.
So it comes to that. Education, gosh, our education, they have so much power over our kids. Yeah. And the information that they teach. Okay, so mom gave that example about her grades. Post-traumatic stress. I went through the exact same example when I was in grad school. Mm-hmm. My professor gave me somebody else's grade. There were only 2 black girls.
I forgot about that.
There were only 2 black girls in this whole class. And not only did she give me the wrong grade, but she blasted me in front of the whole class and talked about how I wasn't doing my homework and I wasn't turning in my essays. And luckily, just like mom, I had all of my papers in my bag that day.
But wasn't your name on it?
No, my names are on it. She didn't remember my name. None of my stuff was below an A-. And she blasted me for not performing. And luckily I had everything with me that day. And I'm like, I turned this in. You gave me a good grade and you said it was excellent. What's the problem here? There's only 2 of us in here. You mean to tell me you can't remember the 2 black girls' names? I was short. She was tall. We had completely different names, but there was multiple back.
Also, how you dealing with my grades. I need you to know who I am.
So she gave me the wrong grade. And then publicly announced what my grade was to the class.
First of all, that was unacceptable.
Listen, we don't need to. We already know. And and I challenged her, and then I reported her because. So, how many of us are experiencing that in the education setting, and that has a big impact on your esteem. You already feel out of place.
It happens in the workplace.
So you already feel out of place, and your teachers have power because you mirror after them. They're almost like second parents. You spend more time with them than you do with your parents sometimes.
Right.
And if they are in control over these messages, they're in control over what information you get about yourself and the world, and in the way that they treat you. If you raise your hand, but your teacher doesn't call on you. Or if your essay is graded a bit more harshly than your counterpart. So you walk away feeling like you're smart, but don't really have anything to represent that that's true. And then you go through life just feeling a little less like you're not good enough. Just
a little less than.
Everywhere, over and over and over and over and over again. And this message is reinforced over and over and over and over again. And then you wonder why people are anxious, don't ask for promotions, don't ask for a raise. They don't ask because they don't think they're going to get it. And that goes back to we're a generation that lives in a society of opportunity, but we're vacant. We lack the esteem that we need to go after the opportunity. We didn't create that lack of self-esteem, but it is our responsibility to fix it. Mm-hmm. Like we still have to be the agents of change, regardless if we come with history or not. We can't stay here.
Right.
So going back to that ability, our brain has the ability to self-correct. It wants to self-correct. Forgive yourself for the mistakes you made before you do your work, but do your work.
Right.
Do
I
your
think,
work. Take
I think,
control over what you can and do your work.
I think that's a great way to end. Does anybody have anything else that they would like to add? Any suggestions? Anybody have some homework?
Just keep learning.
Yeah.
Catch yourself in a pattern of self-destruction and figure out what the alternative is. You know, catch yourself not working in your best interest. Catch yourself trying to, we do this a lot. We hide in the name of being humble. Being humble is not the same as being invisible. We don't want to be invisible.
Mm-hmm.
We don't brag about what we can do to ourselves because we don't want to come off as boastful. But what you're doing is you're hiding your strength from yourself.
Yeah, I struggle with that.
And then you're hiding your strength from others. And then not being seen, but then also feeling upset and resentful that you're not being seen. But we're trying to slide under the radar. And that is how we contribute to this pattern. Like, be bold, be bright, keep your light turned on. You know, surround yourself with like-minded people. Why are you smiling?
Because I have pink hair now.
Oh God. Well, yeah, you know, take risks. Be yourself. I was taught that therapists are supposed to be a blank slate. Like, you're not supposed to know much about your therapist. You're supposed to kind of keep it.
Oh, I would not go to that therapist.
There's a reason behind it. You don't want clients to be like too interested in who you are so much to the point that they're distracted by their own work. And I get it. However, our community likes relatability.
Yep.
And so if they know I come from similar experiences or can relate, then they almost feel safer with me. And so I had to find out that my style of therapy did not need to be my insecurity, that it could be my brand. It could be the way I choose to relate to people. And I just have to do it responsibly. But for a while, me being different felt like an insecurity, and it felt like something I couldn't max out. But now that I know I'm working mostly with my people, that is actually a strength. But I had to get through that imposter syndrome too, of not belonging, not feeling like I could use that. It's rough, man. Keep learning.
Yeah. And I think that if someone needs some resources, we're gathering resources for children and for adults. So you can just reach out to us if there's some books that you want to use for your children. Shani has a really good book on talking about racism to your children. So
contact us at the onescreative.com.
Oh, our website is going live, actually.
So we have contacts. You can contact us there, and we can direct all information to the proper sources. We're creating a database that's going to be amazing after today. We know it's going to be amazing. We have the back end, so it's going to be, we got some stuff going on, and we're trying to help the community.
We do have our one-pager website up right now. It is live right now. Thank you, Lily. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily.
Lily, I'm coming to you.
Yes,
girl.
He's coming for you.
Yes.
You can take a pause on the rest of our stuff while I organize my stuff because I don't have it. And then we can work on Shani.
We'll send her right on it. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate you guys coming on, Mommy.
Thank you.
Shani, we appreciate
thank you so much for sharing
all of your insight and just your stories and helping us come up with solutions that we can bring to the community. And because we want to keep doubling down on these topics and adding more and like bringing new insights. So when things change, let us know so we can like really put it out there. We get a few viewers.
Just share. Y'all can share the YouTube. The YouTube is together too, so we're gonna eventually make sure all the other videos are on there. But right now you can access them through the playlist that's on there. But share and subscribe and
the Ones Creative group. The Ones Creative group, the onescreative.com, the Ones Creative on YouTube, Facebook,
the Ones Creative on IG,
everything. We getting there, guys.
Let's
go.
Yay!
Thank you all.
Little internet.
Yes.
All right.
I
Much
love you
love,
guys.
everyone.
Love you. Bye bye.
All right. So we out of here.
All right.
Another one in the books. Boy, these joints, I'll be hot. I got to get to fix this. Have a good one. That's the unicorn.
Unicorn yoga.
If y'all
Namaste.
into gaming, holler at me on PS4, Sergeant Black Phoenix.
Also, I will be posting some Unicorn intuition videos for those of you who would like a reading. Hit me up, private readings.
All right. Peace and love.
All right.